Понял, под моим управлением. Наблюдаю у вас 292 на 94.
Hello guys, once again it's Matt, and I hope you guys are having a great week. We had some cool videos on the weekend, so check it out. I mean, I made it the special 100 subscribers video, so yep. And continue to subscribe at 500. I will make another one. And yeah, make sure to subscribe and let's grow this channel together. So yeah, let's start with the video. So today we're going to check it out. A lot of people ask me how I have my keys and my buttons and my keyboard, how it's set up in War Thunder and stuff. So let's check it out. So yeah, basically first thing that you have to do is go to options, and you're going to go to air battles. Okay, and of course I have some options here that I like to use. So yeah, for example, enable laser designator before launch. So if you click the button of launching the weapon, it will be already the button to enable the laser designator, so you don't have to use it in such weapons. Of course, let me check. Of course, automatic activation of aircraft radar to make sure that you start with the radar on, because if not, you have to keep just clicking to start the radar and turn on the radar. Yeah, so yeah, use a rectangular radar indicator. This is to make sure that the radar is in that square type of PPI mode. It's called the C-scope, I think. I'm going to show it to you guys, and everything basically just on yes over here. Okay, so. And the most important one that I like to use, automatic activation of aircraft weapon selection and mission start. So basically this will activate automatically the aircraft weapon selection when you start a mission. And you're going to just use the button to fire primary and fire secondary weapons. You're not going to need buttons for fire rockets, fire missiles, fire bombs, fire cannons, fire secondary cannons, everything like that. You have to have 4 buttons to change the secondary, to change the primary, and to change to fire the secondary and fire the primary weapons. Okay, so it's way easier doing this than having a lot of buttons for each thing. So yeah, this is the first part. So get everything set up here. Now you go to controls, and let's start. So I use mouse aim, of course. Full real only for simulator battles, but for realistic battles and arcade I use mouse aim. So of course you have the throttle axis. I use shift and control, left shift and control. Some of the buttons that I show you to you guys are different from a US standard keyboard, because I use a Brazilian standard one for Portuguese. But it's kind of the same. It just have a little bit some more, a little bit more buttons in some areas, but not. It's not a lot. Okay, so yeah, roll axis, pitch axis, and yaw axis. Of course, I use AW, DS, and QE. The thrust vector, I use F and R. So the buttons on the side of the E and D for me. So yeah, it's pretty weird if you think about it, because F is normally flaps, and R is for reload of the weapons, but I use it all other buttons for that. Of course, the wing sweep, I also use F and R, because there's no such aircraft that has wing sweep together with thrust vectoring. Like, this is an example of the Yak-38 or the Harrier, and this is like the MiG-23. So you're not gonna see an aircraft that has both. So I put it the same button. The way that you do that, you just click it, and you click the button that you want, and it will ask if you want to replace or add to the collection the same key that you're using in something else. So you just click add, and it will be added like this. Okay, ignite boosters, I use the minus sign on the side of the 0. Here is the interesting part. I use switch wing sweep control mode 1. So I mean I never use auto mode on the swing wing aircraft. So I normally click the button 1 on the top of Q to actually activate the manual mode, and then I use the F and R to actually open and close the wings. Okay. I use 4 for the wings, the flaps. Of course, these are on the top of the letters, the numbers, not the numpad, you know. Flaps down and flaps up. I use a couple of buttons on the side of the enter key, but they're Brazilian, as you see. So use it as you want. I normally don't use this except in dogfights. Normally I just use toggle flaps, but I'm probably going to change this. But normally this is the way I use. Air brake X, of course, is underneath S, so it's pretty easy. Thrust reverser, it's I mean just the normal point, and underneath L. So yeah, toggle gear, of course, G. Drag chute, you normally don't use it, but it's the default one, Alt plus G. And then, as you see here, everything, I mean, forget about these ones. I don't use these ones. But these are the primaries for weapons. So you need a fire primary weapons, fire secondary weapons, and then you're going to choose, I mean, which, you're going to choose which primary and which secondary you're going to fire. So basically, all primaries are cannons. So the secondary normally are missiles, bombs, rockets, stuff like that. But the primary are the cannons. So I normally use the left mouse button. And fire secondary, I used a side button on the mouse. Okay, so it's mouse button number 4, which is on my finger on the side of the mouse. Okay, but yeah, I only use these, I mean, for fire weapons. I normally choose which one I want with the selection, as you see, switch primary weapons and switch secondary. So I use Alt for secondary. So I want to fire the missiles or the rockets or the bombs. I select them with Alt, and then I fire them with this button on my mouse. And the primaries, if I have a lot of cannons, I choose which cannon I want to with the uh, other secondary button on the side of my mouse, and I fire with the main left mouse button. Okay, so yeah, it's a pretty easier way to do it. I advise you guys to do it. As you see, drop bombs and stuff, fire to ground missiles, artillery missiles, all the same as the secondary because I normally use it, and I just this is before they added this, so yeah, it's just there, but I know I don't use these buttons. Okay, and of course it's the same as the cannons. So here it doesn't, I mean, this doesn't mind. Even the bomb series, I mean, you don't use it because you can use a button to secondary weapon ripple quantity. So you have to choose how many bombs or rockets you want, and then you just, I mean, 2, 4, 8, 16, how many you want, and then you just click one time and the secondary, and it fires that many weapons. So you don't even need the bomb series. You don't need fire rocket. Fire rocket salvo is the same. Fire air to ground missile, or fire to air missile, drop guided bombs. I mean, you just don't use it, okay? Weapon lock, of course, then you need a weapon lock to air. You can use the same button on the fire missile, the secondary. If you click this, the missile will start to lock up. But I like to have caps lock because of basically because you can actually turn it off and turn it on again. If you only use this one, you cannot do that. So if the missile, I mean, I know that the guy is going to turn for a while, so I turn it off and I turn it on again to make sure it's the IR missile is it's good to go when whatever I want. Okay, so it's a way to make sure that the missile is not warming up or anything when the target is standing still. Okay, so yeah. This you don't need lock guided weapons. I mean, you can use just the button here. It's not a problem. I mean, as I said before, switch primary and switch secondary. The ripple quantity. Fire countermeasures, I use the same button to choose the primary weapons because normally jets don't have jets that have countermeasures normally don't have a lot of cannons. Only, I mean, maybe the A4, but different types of weapons. So normally I don't use this, but I have other buttons as you see if I need it. And the fire countermeasure is the same button as that, which is the button on the mouse. If you don't have this type of button on your mouse, I advise you guys to actually use stuff near the AWSD keys. Okay, use caps lock or anything like that. I use every single button near my AWSD, but you can choose between some of them. Okay, so yeah. A periodic key release, I normally don't use it, so yeah, as you see, not the way that I like. But if you like to use it, just change it from this to this. So use the button that you would use in fire countermeasures to periodic release. Some people like to do that. Okay, so here we have the yaw axis aim the weapons and pitch axis for weapons aiming, which is just the way that you guide bullpups, for example, or the KH-23, the AS-20. So basically, I click the caps lock and the AWSD, and it just steers the missile. Okay. Toggle laser designator, of course, because some aircraft need it. So if you need it, you don't need it because I clicked the just normal fire because of the settings, but yeah, you can use that. Of course, here are the radar ones. So only use this if you have an aircraft with a radar, proper radar. So of course, I normally use the main thing is the numpad, but the numpad is far away from AWSD, so I try to put the main things near the AWSD keys. So of course, switch between off and on for the radar and IRST. I put the num on 0 because the radar, I mean, it's always going to be on at the start of the match because of that thing that I did on the settings. So I put it on the 0 key of the numpad. Okay, I'll switch between the radar and IRST because of the MiG-23. I click tab on the side of Q. Change radar mode. This is for normal radar mode and MTI or pulse Doppler. I use the right mouse button because this is pretty important sometimes. Beyond and within visual range, I use a bar that I have on the side of Z, so near AWSD as well. Search mode, I use the number 3 on the top of E to change the search mode. I mean to widen up the scale or narrow it down or anything like that. The scope scale, of course, number 2, basically the distance of the radar. Target lock, to select target lock, selecting the target that you want to lock, I use the middle mouse button. And to actually lock the target, I use space. So you're not going to use to drop bombs and stuff, so use it to actually lock the target, okay? Schraga da Musik, I don't use it because I normally don't fly aircraft that are below the jet line, but yeah. Reload guns, I normally don't play arcade, but you can use it as whatever you want. Of course, here are some important ones. I use the numpad plus and minuses to actually toggle the cannon and the rocket ballist computer. Sometimes I normally just leave it on the rocket one. But sometimes if you want to, you can use the cannon, so yeah. switch mission bombing target, so I use a button called F15, which is a button on the numpad for me, which just selects for CCRP for some aircraft to actually bombing targets. Pretty good one if you are a bomber in high tier, because you can actually just use CCRP from far away to actually bomb targets precisely. Not precisely, but yeah. And if I don't want to bomb a bombing target, as I mean a bombing target, I'm going to use the activate target point with Z and deactivate with numdel to actually use the to actually select a point to use the CCRP. Okay, site stabilization. I mean, you're not going to use it as much, but yeah, basically, if you're going to use in sim battles, you can use it as well. You can also toggle, most of them you can toggle with the Y um, button, okay, with the menu. Here are some of the views, of course, and aerobatic smoke, but basically this is it, and toggle engine with the I, okay. Some of the commons that I use: tactical map, it's M. Statistics is the button on the side of M. Multifunction menu, as I said, Y. Leave the vehicle J, of course. X-ray O. Lock target MMB, which is the middle mouse button. Chat is enter. And of course, some of the other stuff here, but I mean, this is the main thing, okay? But yeah, if you have any doubts, ask me in the comments. A lot of people were asking me how did I use this. But yeah, it's basically very it's very good for flying the MiG-23 because it's my favorite aircraft and the aircraft that I fly the most. But I mean, it's just a very good way to use these settings anyway. So yeah, another thing that I forgot, the mouse wheel, of course, I use as zoom axis. I don't like to use as a throttle. Okay, I don't use hover mode because it's just dumb with the Harrier and Yak. I mean, just learn to use the normal thrust vectoring, which is if it's a little bit harder, but if you learn how to use it, it's way better to fly it. So even in helicopters, don't use hover mode. Just try to fly the aircraft and learn how to use the aircraft. Okay. So yeah, guys, this is it, and I see you guys on the next one. I mean, uh, as I said before, leave it in the comments what else you have doubts in. A lot of people were asking me how I do it, so yeah, just leave it in the comments and I see how I respond to you guys, okay? So bye, subscribe, and click the like button. Bye, guys.